Well, hello. It seems that we are on. It seems that we are live. It seems that we are live. It seems that we are live. It's okay. So I'm only using my mic. And something else is happening in the background. Oh, that's what's happening. Okay. All right. So, today is my. I'm still working on previous projects that I've started. So recently, I have started this project with the mushrooms in 4 or 5 different ways. So the first was a drawing, and I still haven't finished it. I haven't done anything with it yet. So it's still there. The second was a watercolor painting I've done last week. And today I think we're going to be working on oil. So we'll see how that turns out. I'm just going to be typing something in the chat there for anybody who wishes to join us later. All right, give me space, lots of space. Okay, so hi, there's one viewer. Hello. I'm still trying to set up here. So for today's painting, because I'm using oils, and oils don't really go with paper so much when you can do it, and I've done it before, it's rather limited though. I'm using canvas, and this is from Frederick's, and these particular canvas pads, they have real canvas, an actual piece of canvas that's been gessoed. And that, not that it mimics, it actually is the piece of canvas that you would wrap around a support. And the good thing about that is that it's as thin as a piece of paper, or a little bit thicker than paper, but it's very easy to store them, whereas stretched canvases are a little bit harder. Alright, this is the piece. Okay. So, my size here is 12 by 16. And you can't see everything, can you? More like that. Okay. So 12 by 16. and I might crop it down a bit depending, because my reference image is, if I can find it now. My reference image is somewhat longer than it is tall, so I think I'm gonna crop this down quite a bit. Alright, so as I was explaining at another time, I'm trying to see if I can use any of these other, no, I don't. There it is. Okay, sorry. As I was explaining, at some point last week, I think, when I was doing the watercolor painting of the mushrooms, I'm using different reference photos, different mushrooms for these paintings. I can't use just the exact same one. Not right now, anyways. I'm a little. That's just how I'm feeling right now, that I'm not exactly doing that, which is fine, because then you get to explore, right? And you don't get tired of the same image, and that's basically my reasoning behind generally just using different references. It's still a mushroom, but it's just different. It's a bit of a different image. Trying to make this relatively equal. I'm definitely not gonna have let's try it there. We'll see what we get. And now I'm gonna try no, that's too far. It's not going to be an exact science here, but I'm trying to get the space on my canvas to match as much as possible the space that I would have on the reference photo, just so that it makes it easier to paint when I'm painting, so that proportions are somewhat the same. And I'm only just eyeballing this, so it's not an exact science or anything. Okay, so let's try it this way. Oh, I'm gonna need It's nice to have a nice clean edge, and this also means that I don't get my support here dirty. Oh, actually, I don't need the whole length. Hold on a second. I can use a smaller piece. Yeah, there you go. Okay. Okay, that. Now for paints. Oh, where did my paints go? Oh. It's been such a long time since I painted in oils, I don't even remember where my paints went. Are these are my paints. Okay, found them. I'll be using Winsor Newton Winton oil colors. And I'll be using the Dale & Rowney Georgian oil colors. And I'm actually going to transfer at some point my reference photo around to another device. But we'll see. So I'm gonna switch to my reference photo here for a second. Just so I can pick colors that I need. I'm definitely gonna need the yellow. I'm going to need, I think, the ochre, the yellow ochre. This would be cool, the crimson. The burnt sienna. Sure, why not? Definitely gonna need some white. I'm not gonna use black. I'm gonna use this green here. There's a sap green. Got yellow with my browns. Oh, the Van Dyke brown. Okay, so this is the paints gray, and it's gonna be very handy. The sap green with the yellow. Okay. I'm just looking very sorry. Overall, I'm doing overall patches of color. I'm looking at my reference photo, trying to match to see if what colors I would need. I might need some blue though. I'm gonna get the French ultramarine. The log, so these mushrooms, there's gonna be a bunch of them this way, and they're sitting on a log. I like that combination of little mushrooms on wood, on trees. I really like that. So I'm gonna do this. I'm thinking that's it. Okay, that's plenty of colors there. Lots of colors. All right. So then, my mixing palette, Jack Richardson, Gray Matters paper palette. It's tiny because I usually do small oil paintings. I don't do something. This is the biggest. This is the biggest. Almost the biggest painting that I've done. And this might be a little bit too small, but we'll see. I guess we'll see. And let's see. I am definitely going to move my reference photo to another device. I can't do this on the same computer. Okay. Before I get to the changing my devices here, I want to talk about some other things, because I can't find my words today, that we're going to be using. Liquin light gel. Liquin is good for speeding up drying time. With oils, you're gonna get days, weeks, months, depending on how thick the oil swab that you put on layer. The oil layer, the color, the paint layer that you've put down, depending on how thick that is, it's going to take more and more time to dry. So I always use, nowadays, more recently, use liquid to speed up drying. So that means up to 2 days in between paintings, or layers, right? Now, the thing with oil painting for me is that I actually use it a lot like acrylics, in that I paint it all in one go. I don't do layers. I don't have the patience for layers. Let me rephrase that. I don't have patience to wait for drying time in between layers. So when I do layers, I kind of just go thin to thick, and I kind of just do it all in one sitting. That's just me. Others do it more traditionally with an underpainting and let that dry and so on and so forth. I don't. But what I will do, I think, is I will do a first layer, an underpainting of acrylics probably on here. Just a background very quickly to get rid of the white of the canvas. Because I don't want to sit there with the oil and trying to get it in, the oil paint, I mean. Right, so that's my technique there. To clean my brushes and so forth, I'm using odorless solvent. This is just a local brand that I use, but it's odorless because I have issues with strong odors, and yeah, trying to keep everything so that it smells less. Wintertime is worse because I can't keep the windows open for hours and hours on end. It gets too cold inside. So yeah, summertime for oil paintings mostly. Then again, it's been such a long time. There's so many different modalities that I paint in. Media, sorry. Again, my brain's not working properly. Media that I paint in, there's usually quite a bit of a lag time in between different media. So, as I said, it's been months since I've last used oil paints. So, I need to get reacquainted with them. So, what do I need? I'm gonna put these off to the side somewhere. Oops, they're falling. Okay. Off to the side. My work area here is very, very tiny. It's a mess. Now, I use a combination of 3 jars, and they all contain solvent to various degrees. So this is my jar that I use during painting to clean brushes and such. You can also use it as a solvent for thinning out the paints. I haven't cleaned it out last time, so I'm gonna have to do that now. This is where the dirty stuff goes. It's another little jar, and the clean stuff goes in here, and I reuse it. So one of these bigger bottles of solvent, this one's about 500 mils almost. I think it's been a year that it's lasted me. Keep in mind that I don't paint very often either, but I haven't used this up yet either, so I'm using up the used solvent first before I put new solvent in. So what I do with this then is you gotta let it sit. That's why I forgot about it. You gotta let it sit so that the sediment sort of settles at the bottom, and the clean or the clear solvent is at the top. And then I use a pipette, if I can find my pipette in here. Clean pipette, not the oily one. Okay. Clean pipette, and I pipette it into the clean jar. Poof. It is odorless, but it still has a bit of an odor. So I just very carefully grab up And it's clean, it's clear, right? It's a bit of a tint to it. Obviously it's not clear, but it's very clean, so it can be reused. Setting up for an oil painting takes a little bit longer than for other paintings, I find, because there's more moving parts, maybe I can call it that. And this morning I was studying, so I'm sorry for being a bit late and not having everything all ready to go. We're going to be spending about the usual 1.5 to 2 hours on this. If I work fast enough, I can get it done in about 2 hours. This size of painting, I mean. I guess we'll see. So when you're titrating like this, you got, is that what it's called? You got to be careful not to disrupt the layer of sediment at the bottom, because then you gotta throw the whole thing away, or you gotta wait till it settles again, and so forth. So, but very, very important, nothing goes in the drain. Kitchen drain, bathroom, nothing goes down the drain. Anything to do with oils, it goes in the garbage, or the stuff here, the used stuff. This is going to, when this gets full, it's going to go in a special, what do you call it, when you go to the dump, there's a special thing for solvents and stuff that you use. So not in the general location for garbage, right? Because it is toxic and it is going to impact the environment and so forth, so you want to be careful. Now, this is the sediment that's left in the bottom. It's actually quite really neat. Okay, so all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take paper towel, wipe it right off. It's very thin sediment. I don't let it accumulate, and I throw it in the garbage. This is as pure as oil paint is gonna get once you've used it. Now, I do this when it's a situation like this where it's already separated, the sediment was on the bottom and so forth. I don't always do this because, again, I don't really want to throw things out in the garbage either. Again, not safe for the environment. Right, and I took it right off. Okay, I might go a second time. Generally what happens with this is that once I'm done painting, I plop it in this jar, excuse me, in this jar, and then it's going to settle, and so forth, and the clear stuff is going to be at the top, and then I transfer it over to the clean jar. So that's usually how that goes. Okay, so done. Alright, so now I'm just going to transfer over to my tablet so I can have a visual of my reference photo. While I'm doing any of this, if you have any questions, please let me know. So so that it's not too boring for you, sitting there waiting for something to be happening. Alright, so this is the reference photo. I can show it to you this way. Right, so this should be fun. There's lots of those mushrooms in there though, so it might take some time. Now again, I don't do super realistic paintings, so I'm going to be grouping them more. So I'm going to use other techniques that are a bit more, I don't want to call them painterly, but more impressionistic maybe. I like to do more the indication of something being there as opposed to, so that applies more so to certain kinds of paintings. This is actually quite, you know, you can tell what it is. Again, it's not super realistic, but you can tell what it is. So depending on the subject matter, I might go a bit more loose painting or not. Now, this is gonna be tricky. Okay, to fit everything on my tiny little table here. So, oh, I said that I would do a background first. Good point. So I need my acrylics. The background's gonna be, I'm thinking gray. Alright, so I can't find my gray very quickly, so I don't keep everyone waiting. So I'm gonna use black, lamp black, and Naples yellow, which is almost like what would you call it now? Like a titanium buff. There's another name for that. Unbleached titanium. Almost like an unbleached titanium in color. So it makes it actually, it's a very warm gray that's going to be created this way. Okay. So for that, because I don't want to use up my palette, I'm going to use a wax paper. Right at the bottom here for my palette. I'm not gonna need a huge amount of paint for this. Gotta be careful, and the black is very strong. That's probably way too much. That's how it goes sometimes. I put too much. So what I do when I have way too much paint, I'm gonna need a, when there's way too much paint left over, I try to use it on another project right away so I don't throw it out. Acrylic is going to, once it dries, if it were to dry like this on my palette, it's done, it's gone. And I need a bit of water, but not much. So I used to have a, there it goes, little water bottle, just to spray this down. Okay. Just for a bit of flow. So let's see. A little dark, but oh well. And it's okay that it's sort of not homogeneous, if I can call it that. I don't need it to be. It's just to color the canvas, so I don't have the white showing. But what I do need is for all the little spaces inside the canvas to be colored. I don't want white little specks. You can probably even see that, but there's white little specks showing through. Gray is usually a good color for general background to do, because all other colors show up very nicely against gray, which is why I got my palette to be a dark gray, because you can judge well, color mixing is really good for that, right? You can judge the color better. It's a neutral background, so that's why. All right. I'm looking for those tiny spaces, the white specks of the canvas showing through. I want to make sure that none of that is showing through. Need to have good lighting for this step because those tiny spots are very easy to miss. It's happened to me before. I would rush and I wouldn't pay attention. The lighting wasn't very good. All right. Okay. I think that's good. I got the corners in. Make sure you get the corners in. That's actually important. So it looks nice when you peel off the tape. So to my eye, I think this is good. So I'm gonna go wash my brush right away. I'm gonna have to do something with this paint that I've got left on here. Like, look at this, huge. The black was way too much. Well, I guess we'll see what we can do with that later. I'm gonna mute just so I can move through the room a bit better. All right, oh, ouch. Gotta look where I step. I'm back. Okay. So now we gotta wait for this to dry. And I might set up some other things in the meantime. So I'm gonna need a knife. This should be good. I'm gonna use the knife to scoop up the liquid that needs to go on. And what else? Now brushes. Let's go with a soft brush for the first layers. Generally, when you're painting in oils, it's said that the rough hog hair brushes are, you know, what you should be using. I don't much care for the brush lines that occur with hog hair because they're so rough. At the same time, when you're using bigger, not bigger, but thicker paint, a soft brush like this is too soft to carry that paint. So I'm gonna go with soft brushes for the first layer that's going to be thinner, and I'm probably gonna switch over to hog brush for the other layers, even though there is that line that's gonna happen. Just because I need something that's going to be able to, or I can use a palette knife. That's something. Maybe next time. I'll do a palette knife painting. Okay. How are we doing here? Oops. It's a little muggy. We need to wait for a little bit more. Not gonna take too long. Okay, so then let's set up the paints. I'm gonna bring you down here so you can see what I'm doing with my paints. Okay. I'm gonna draw, oops, I touched it. I'm gonna draw where some of these items are going to be on my painting first. Just sketch, not draw, it's sort of sketch. And generally speaking, I'm actually gonna move front to back as opposed to back to front. So traditionally, and in particular, well, it helps a lot with acrylics to go background to foreground, but with oils I'm gonna go the other way around here. The reason is that I don't want to wait for layers to dry, so I'm not gonna do background, all of the background, wait for that to dry, put in the foreground, the middle ground, the foreground, so forth. And because of that, I need to sort of save where things are going to be. So I'm gonna start off with the foreground here. So foreground, and then I'm gonna carve in the background, and that's gonna help me reshape anything in the foreground that I didn't like. Now, what's going to make this really good or for this technique to work is that oil paints, because they don't dry, they stay open like that. They are more flexible for the background, and I can smooth it out and everything. So whereas with acrylic, because they dry so much faster, you're gonna get random brush strokes showing and everything else, because they don't blend very well, not very well, but you gotta be really fast, if that makes sense. You gotta be very fast. So for this particular technique or approach, I can be comfortable with doing the background last, because the oil paints don't dry, so I'll be able to blend more, if that makes any sense. So we're almost there. I've got a patch right here that's very wet, and obviously right there because I'm sticking. Okay, so in the meantime, back to my palette. I definitely want the Van Dyke Brown. Van Dyke Brown is a cool brown. It's really good for making grays, warm grays. I shouldn't say that. What's the term for this? Optic gray? No. Anyways, when you mix in your own gray as opposed to buying it out of the tube. As I said, my brain's not working very well today. So if I do this, then that's gonna happen. Okay, we're gonna do this. Now, when it's coming out, I don't know if you can tell, it's very thick. It's quite thick. You can tell the shape that it comes out of the tube, and it stays like so. It's much thicker than my acrylic paints that I use, and I like that because it's really good. It's very easy to make impasto, techniques with it, which is just sort of grabbing it on the palette knife and plopping it on the canvas nice and thick. So it's really good for that. I don't want to put too much right away because I don't know how much I'm going to be using. I'm probably going to be using quite a bit, but I would rather continue to add to my palette than to have a huge big thing. Because then I gotta do something with it. I don't want to lose it, to waste it, as I did with the black acrylic, for example. There was too much that came out of the bottle. Okay, I am not sure if I want to use the Payne's gray at the moment. I want to mix my grays. So I'm looking for my blue. Where did my blue go? Okay, a brown and a blue is going to give you a gray. Interesting fact. Which brown and which blue you use is going to affect the tone of that gray. Warmer, dark, cooler, that sort of thing. So I don't have these things memorized. I'm not a colorist. I don't have these things memorized. So I kind of go by feel. Okay. So I know that a brown and a gray is going to give me a brown and a blue. And the only blue that, not the only one, but I like this blue, is a French ultramarine. It's a warm blue. It's quite dark, quite intense. Not dark, but intense. It's a strong color. I like it. I like my Van Dyke brown. So I'm going to see what kind of gray I'm getting out of this. Okay. I've used this combination before, but I'm not... I don't memorize it, so we'll see what we get. Now, one thing that I'm noticing with my blue anyways is that it's starting to separate a bit. It's getting old. It's a very Georgian oils, Daler Brownie in general, I think, don't quote me on this, but specifically the Georgian oils, they are student grade, like student grade, cheap. In terms of how the paint behaves, that's a better word, the Winton oils and these guys are sort of the same. So that's why I'm using it. I'm using them both at the same time. However, I kind of have an idea that now, Winsor and Newton are a very good company. The Winton line of their oil colors are the student grade. Okay, they do have more professional grades, but they're expensive. So that's why I kind of went with the two. But I'm going to be phasing out the Daler Brownie. I'm going to go only with the Winsor Newton. I like them better. And they're coming in a bigger tube and so forth. But I kind of want to say that the Winton oils are going to be better quality than the Georgian. I'm not sure. I haven't done a full research about that, so I'm not entirely sure. But that's sort of where I'm leaning towards. I'm gonna get my sap green out. The other thing that I don't like about these Georgian oils right now, and it might just be the batch that I got like 2 years ago probably, like this stuff happens. Whatever they use to mix the paint, to make the paint, it's seeping out and it's starting to separate on my blue. And anyways, they're much softer though than the Winton oil. I've just realized that they are. Okay, Now a way to, because my greens, I'm gonna have some duller green in the back, some more grayed out. So I'll be mixing it with either the brown and the blue at the same time, or more on the brown side to darken it. We'll see. But that's sort of the technique to get it to change the color a bit. And I'm putting down some yellow ochre. At the moment, I might not even need my other yellow. Well, no, sorry, that's not what I meant. My burnt sienna or raw sienna, what is this? Burnt sienna. Because I want to use this reddish color, the crimson. The crimson with the Van Dyke brown is gonna look very good. So let's wait on the sienna for now. I'm looking at that log. That log is going to be really interesting to paint. And I'm seeing red tints in it that I want to amplify a bit, that then are going to be reflecting in the mushrooms. The sienna has a bit of red in it, but it's very brownish. Let's just see what we get with the crimson. It's a very dark crimson. Look at that. It's beautiful. I love that color. Okay. Alright. So now I need some of this liquid. How are we doing here? Dry! See? Took a few minutes, but it's dry. If I can get this thing open. Oh dear, it's already been an hour. That's not a good sign. And we haven't even started painting anything. I can't get it to open. But once we get started painting, it's gonna go fast. It's the setup that takes the longest. Unbelievable. It's not the first time I've used it. I don't know why it's so impossible to open it. If I can't get this thing to open, it's not that I can't paint, but then I'm gonna have to wait weeks for it to dry. Oh, done. Good Lord. My hands are raw. Okay. Got that. And then I just remember that there's one more thing that we need to set up. That I need to set up. The liquid is something that gets used up really fast. You don't need a whole bunch to make a difference, but it tends to use up. It has quite an odor. Okay. Actually, the liquid smells stronger than the actual paints, believe it or not. So you want to have an open window, a well ventilated area when you do this. Okay. Keep a garbage can within reach. All right, what do we need? I need some clean solvent. That was stuck as well. Well, I'm just gonna pour this guy. It's gonna take too long to pipette it. Now you gotta be careful when you pour solvent and stuff because it is flammable, right? So you want to wipe it out and leave it, that sort of thing. Okay. And I put down a little bit. I don't need to put down too much because it's going to get and a little bit, I mean about the size of my finger here. Okay. The more you use it, it's like water, right? When you use watercolors or acrylics, it's going to get dirty. All of it is going to get dirty fast. So better to more often change the water than to have like 2 liters of it and all at once. Doesn't help. Okay, let's get this show on the road. I mean, that's what I meant. I need a pencil, and I am going to use pastel pencil in white. Oops. Okay, so how we're gonna do this. This is my log. This is my log. This is my log. This is my log. It's a very straight line. Well, and I'm eyeballing it. It's not a very, I'm not taking out a ruler or anything. It is a piece of wood or a tree, so it is organic. I'm gonna keep that. This is going to be the height of my mushrooms and such. And all the way down to about here. So very loosely. Can you see anything? Barely see anything on the camera. I'm sorry. I'll make sure not to spend too much time on this. Just indication where things are, because I like to sort of paint right on. Keeping things as they should be. This is gonna be quite loose. That's my intention, anyways. I find that I tend to be quite control freak. So what's happening here too is that there's several layers of mushrooms and not just the one layer at the front. There's 2 or 3 in depth going down. Those are going to be more sort of masked in. I'm just gonna do just to make sure that there's something there. and the ones at the top are going to have the more detail. Now I also have green. There's green stuff happening in the back, so that's going to go on first because it's showing through the stems of these mushrooms. So I want to make sure that that's in there. Then I have mushrooms going this way. I like these tiny little mushrooms. I don't know what type they are, but I like them. They're easy to paint. So I like them. And I also like that they are, what really interested me about this picture was that you've got that tilt, but you've got straight line here, right? But you've got this tilt happening. Okay, and this is the rock face. It's not, it's actually a tree, I think, in the back. Cool. Okay, so let's see what we get. I need to blow my nose. I blame the liquid for my nose right now. I can really smell it. It's right in front of my nose here. Okay, so first things first, dip the paintbrush in the solvent to soften it up. Do not use the same brush for acrylic as for oil. They need to be different. Tap it down on a rag and let's go to town. So I need some of this green with a touch of the liquid. And a smidge of this blue just to darken it, to go colder tint to it. Let's see what we got. Okay, it's very thin. Darker here, because this is so sort of just in the back here. These are what's going to constitute the shadows that we see. I need more green. Jeez, I did not expect this kind of reaction to the paint or the liquid. A little bit of that yellow to make it, yeah, that's better. Oops. So for this frontal piece, if I can call it that, I am going background sort of to the front, back to front. because you've got all these tiny little spaces in between that you can't put in afterwards, right? If I was doing this in pastels, I might do some of that way. But I want to make this nice and easy. It's very central. Okay. If I continue to have this reaction to the liquid, I might have to dispose of it. Do without. So the trick with oils when you do them this way, when you work this way, is that you're going to pick up whatever paint you've got underneath. That's why you work thin to thick. So the first layer is thinner, the layers after that are thicker, because that way you don't pick up quite as much, you don't get the blending. You can blend if you want to, but you don't have to, I suppose. Okay, that's good there. Clean my brush. I would say let's move on to, I don't have to look at my brush, I guess. The log here. So dark to light. That's how we go about this, dark to light. So lots of my brown, some of this blue. That's great right there. Probably can't tell the difference on the camera, but that's great. And I will call that a well, no, it's actually quite a cool gray, but it's cool anyways. Cool. I'm trying to get the little dark spots that you'd have in a bark. Just very roughly, I'm using the reference photo for a rough estimate of location. I'm not trying to copy, just make it realistic so that you can tell that this will probably be bark. There's also this technique, going from dark to light, also allows you to put in your darkest darks, and you judge the rest of your colors based on that. So if this is as dark as I would get, this sort of gray that's happening here, everything else needs to be much lighter in order for that to stand out. If I'm too close in tone, it doesn't stand out, right? Like from here to here, it doesn't stand out. This portion of the log is very dark to begin with, but it's still not going to be as dark as my darkest darks. All right. I'm trying to think if I want to do this first layer on the back too. No. I want to see what I got in terms of my focal point here first before I judge the colors for the background. Oh, except that I've got background happening right here. Dang it. So we're gonna do the background then. There goes my plan. Okay, I need more brown. It's the same colors as in the foreground here for the log. Poof. That's very strong smell, jeez. Yeah, okay. So I gotta get rid of this liquid. I can't. I'm reacting to it. So I'll be right back. What am I gonna do to scrape it off? Scrape it right off. I'm sad to see it go. Damn it. Okay. Got it. I'm hoping it's going to be easier then to survive, to breathe. I need more blue. Now the difference between, because it's the same colors on this log as it is on the other, I think it's a tree again, the bottom of a tree in the back, but because it's the same colors, you can get a very, everything is the same, you don't get a separation of depth. So the background is going to be more mixed in, no mixed, what am I trying to say? My brain is going to eventually catch up with what I'm trying to say. Blended is what I wanted to say, more blended. So in order to make this is too thin now, paint thin, I used a bit more of the solvent in my paint, but then I used too much. The nice thing about the liquid was that it thinned out the paint. So I didn't have to use any other thinners or anything like that, such as the solvent, for example. much solvent. Okay. I'm blocking in where I see darks happening. It's good to use a large brush because it's going to help you keep things more loose. Small brush is for details. Oops. And I'm carving right into that green. We want that so that it doesn't look like it just things being pasted on top or like right next to it. You get that what would you call it, edge happening. We don't want the edge. I don't like what's happening over there. I'm gonna have to fix it. Okay, I'm gonna need some sort of green with some blue and some of that brown. I'm trying to blend out the background now. Where's my brown? So, as I said at the beginning, I'm not entirely sure what kind of tone I'm gonna get with the sap green and the brown versus sap green with the blue versus sap green with both the brown and the blue. So no time like the present to try it out, right? So I'm gonna get that kind of a green here. Okay, that's not what I want. Add some brown. It's very dark, you can't even tell what's what. So I need to add some white. I need things to tone down. So I want this kind of green-ish, but much more toned down so that you can tell that it's in the background. We need that perspective happening. Oh, I can't open this thing. There. So when you add white and black, really, it dulls the color. So it takes the vibrancy out of it. So you want to use it sparingly, generally. So be, I don't know, intentional about where you use it and why. Okay, now look at this green. Where am I putting this? Can you tell? That's right here. So it's very, now you can tell that it's in the background, right? And same thing with the brown with a little bit of this white. And it's more toned down. So I'm gonna do a general background like this. Smooth everything in. And then I'm gonna add the green sort of on top of that. Green with blue is what I like. One with a little bit of that white, like that. Hee. Okay, It's working. It's gonna take a while to dry properly. Well, not the paint to dry, but the solvent. Actually, the solvent's gonna make the paint dry faster because the solvent evaporates, right? And that dries out. So the thinner the layer that you got, the faster it's going to dry out. So I'm wanting a nice, soft background, very well blended, but keeping an indication of those darks in there so I know where to go back and add some more darks. Okay. I'm very, very loosely using my reference photo. I'm not trying to be exact. I need more green. I'm not cleaning my brush in between. I'm sort of just going right in there because that's going to mix my colors, and I like that look. I don't have to be exact. I can be loose. I can add, and because oils don't dry so fast at all, I can take a gob of white, add it right into a corner and just blend it in, and it's going to blend in, right? So I prefer the blending on the canvas as opposed to the blending on my palette than trying to match what I have on the canvas. As long as you're not creating mud, you know. Oops, that's not what I wanted. All right. So this already gives me a fuzzy forest kind of background there, and I like it. What I'm going to add is some more of this brown with the blue, so dark, to re-emphasize the dark spots. Now here I'm not blending this way, I'm kind of just tapping, because if I blend this way I'm going to get, well, very blended. So for now I'm just sort of tapping, and then I'm blending at the edges, kind of ideal, because I want more brown. I want to add some or emphasize some of those dark spots and blend them out into the background. Although, to be very honest, I'm kind of liking the way it is. I might just add some more lighter green, or background green. Got something in my... because I kind of like it. Kind of looks good on camera too. Okay, so green with the blue. And a bit of white. Some more white. Yeah, like that. This is sort of where the moss is sitting. That sort of thing. We can always come back and readjust the background. I'm not worried about it. All right, kind of like it. See if I can blend that stuff out better. Excuse me. Delayed reaction to the liquid. This is better. Yay! It's better. Okay. And just so that I can get a better feel for the stuff that's gonna come on here, I want to do this log. Still gonna go light to dark. Sorry, the other way around. Dark to light. So I'm mixing my brown with my alizarin crimson. That in those spots where it's nice and red. Now it's still dark. On camera, I'm not sure if you can see the red tint very well. I can see it, it's visible with the naked eye. And I'm using straight, just the paint itself. I'm not using any thinner. I need to scrub it in a little bit more to sort of get that effect. Okay, let's add some yellow into that mixture. Sorry, what is this? The yellow ochre. It's still yellow, but you know. Yellow ochre. It makes it more orangey in color. It's still relatively dark, but it's just a different color, so I'm not adding in the white yet. I will eventually get to the white to lighten it. But the more color you have in a tree, right, the better it is. Variation in colors, that sort of thing. Making it a little bit more yellow and some spots. It's going to be a fun little tree. I'm hoping anyways. You don't want to smudge too much because it's all going to be a mess if you smudge too much. So I added a little bit of white, and I'm not blending my colors on the palette either, okay? And I'm just sort of dabbing on my tree here, and that deposits the paint thicker, and it has the impression of texture. Some areas I'm dragging my paintbrush, others I'm not. It creates different effects. So this is sort of just the first layer, if you want to call it that, of the tree. We're at the first layer stage still. I'm gonna do this stuff in the middle here, and then I'm gonna add finishing touches. The finishing touches are always the best, in my opinion anyways, because you're almost done. When you get to that stage, you're almost done. Yay! Right? Right. Okay. I'm gonna leave it at that. Wipe my brush off, clean my brush, and then I'm gonna go with a smaller brush. I'm still using a soft brush. I honestly don't know if I'm gonna get to use the hog hair brushes. They're not my first go-to anyways, so I might be able to do fine without. Okay, my nose is giving me grief for a bit. Excuse me. It already looks kind of neat, kind of really neat. I'm biased, you know, because it's my painting, but I like it. Look at. And it kind of has that look of, I don't know, it's a distinctive look of oils. Oils have a distinctive look compared to acrylic, for example, you know. So I think we've done very good. Everything is relatively quite darkish, to be fairly honest. But that's okay. This is probably what I will call the ugly stage. Although it's really not that ugly. It's better than acrylic ugly stage. So I'm switching over to an angled brush, smaller brush, and let's get these mushrooms in there. So I'm still gonna use the yellow ochre and the crimson, alizarin crimson. I'm a fan of not using too many different colors in a painting. Big fan of that. So I try to sort of just reuse the colors that I already have on here. It's gonna make for a more cohesive painting. So let's see how I'm gonna do this. Let's start off with where my tallest guy would be, right here. Paint is too thin. I'm doing triangles. The layer underneath is not dry, obviously, so I'm getting mixed. I'm mixing things. So I'm gonna clean off my brush. I dipped it in the solvent first, and that was my mistake because now it's too thin. Remember how I said that when you don't allow your layers to dry, you go from thin to thick. So anything on top needs to be thicker so that the paint sits on top. It doesn't mix at first glance anyways. I'm sketching is basically what I'm doing. Right now I'm sort of sketching. I had a sketch done previously that I got, of course, wiped out, but that was sort of indication just for my brain. When you go through it once, your brain remembers. So that's what I was doing there. This is, oops, not dry completely, but almost. Don't get your fingers in the painting. Alright, so then we got that. I don't know if you can tell, but I've got a little bit of the green on my brush. So I am picking up some of the color beneath a little bit. Inconsequential. But when you do this, you don't press very hard. The darker bits are behind. Okay. Okay. Is that it? I think that's it. Okay. So that's that. Now I'm coming in with a little bit of white into that yellow orangey mixture to put in the edges of these guys. Yeah, that would be a lot more effective if I had more paint on my brush. Okay. I'm trying to make them look like they're slanted. I might not get very good at it, but I'm trying. This also helps me to separate the various pieces. So again, I don't create mud. And it helps me to keep things straight a little bit. At these stages you have to clean your brush often because it gets mucked up. You lose the white, you're picking up colors from beneath and so on. All right, what else we got? And these are details, of course, that will get added constantly. A bit of a downfall to not letting layers dry. It is what it is. That's sort of what I do. Adding white like this sort of detail at this point, not that point. Okay, don't get your fingers in there. Also brings your subject matter closer to the viewer. So you're creating depth. Okay, I'm gonna leave that as is for a little bit. Clean out my brush a bit. My little jar of solvent is very, very dirty. But oh well, I can still use it. I need some legs to these mushrooms. So I'm going straight in that ochre with the white. Nope. I need a smaller brush. Nope, 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 nope. I'm not doing that. Smaller brush, smaller brush, smaller brush. But an angle brush because it makes drawing straight lines that much easier. I had smaller angle brushes somewhere. I'm missing brushes. Jeez. Okay, I guess not a angle brush then. No angle. Straight brush. Okay. Straight into the yellow or more white. I need white. And white. Okay. The way that these stems are painted in is going to add with the illusion of tilt. So exaggerate the tilt. And I'm already at almost 2 hours and we still got quite a bit of to go. comes with the territory, what can I say? This is the frustrating part of this. The fact that it's not easy to layer on top of something that isn't dry. Great. And you can't rest your hand on the canvas either. Do not do that. Okay. Perseverance, perseverance, and we'll get there. I'm not done with the mushrooms themselves either. I want more detail on them. So there's still time to fix things. Don't like what that's doing there. Ooh. Fix it. Okay. All right, let's leave that for a moment. And my mushrooms need to have a bit more shape, I think, and some more red in them. So I'm going straight with my red. Okay, that's a bit too much. There, like that. This is where the blending is going to help, or rather the ability to blend into the wet layer beneath. This is where it helps. So it's got its pros and cons, you know. You kind of do what you kind of like. What I'm also noticing is that and they do have a tilt. Yay! They do have a tilt. Okay. It's always good. Okay. That's what I wanted. To have a tilt. Right. My painting is rather dark. And that's kind of neat. But it does tend towards dark. So at the end, when I'm saying I'm just about done, I'll step away from it, get up off my chair, and I'll take a look at it and see what it needs. Some artists would say, leave it for the day, come back the next day, fresh eyes, and then you finish it up. And it's oil, it's not going to go anywhere, it's still going to be there. I don't have patience for that. So, on the one hand, I should get more patience, really. On the other, it's good. My paintings are still good. So I'm doing some random filling in the blanks there a little bit. You don't see behind the scenes very well. So it's all good, but it gives that impression of depth. And that's what we want. Okay, oh, I need this side. So all of a sudden we have a bit more form to these things. You can tell already that these are mushrooms. They're visibly mushrooms. And that's really all that the eye needs. Just the brain's gonna make the logical conclusion. Okay. I'm gonna stretch for a bit now, actually, because I need to stretch. And I'm looking at my painting and seeing that I need more light. And I need to do something with these stems because they're not quite working the way that I want them to work. That's a tiny bit better. Kinda, sorta, kinda, sorta. Okay. Fixing things in between. Okay. Alright, I need some more definition on the actual mushrooms though. I don't like this brush. It's not thin enough for what I wanted to do. Straight white. Actually, this is gonna work pretty good. No. Okay, what other brushes do I have I can use? Oh, I wonder if hog hair would be helpful here though. Let's give it a try. So I need some more white. Let's see. Not bad. Actually much better than the other one. The other soft brush was getting too mugged, too mucky, and it was picking up color from beneath, and I'm not laying it down, for not laying down my white properly and all that. So this is actually really good stuff. Alright. So it's messy, right? But that's sort of what I like. That's how I paint. I don't do what do you call it? Realism, super realism. The sun went into a cloud right now and it got really dark in here. So my light is consistently coming from the left. It's catching these mushrooms at different angles, depending on their angle. But it's consistently coming from the left, which is good to have a consistency. I actually rather like this. Okay, I'm gonna let that be. And with the same brush that I have right here, I'm gonna take care of this log here. I think I want some pink happening. Oh, I see lights. A little bit of super light gray where it's sitting in shadow but it's still light, if that makes sense. Like that. I'm skipping over my canvas here now. I don't want to blend this out, I just want to touch it. Most of the highlights are actually a pinkish, grayish tone. Some more white. Oops, this is the paint gray. That's not what I want. Good thing I caught it. I'm mixing a straight brown highlight. Okay. And texture is just sort of small little dabs here and there. Lots of depth, and that's what gives that feeling of texture. And thick paint. Thick paint is gonna do it. Let's go to that pink highlight again. And we're almost done. So we're looking at just over 2 hours, but that's, you know, that's also my not being quite ready. The setup took quite a bit of time. Now you don't want to overdo the highlights either, because it's just gonna look like, it's not gonna look like anything. So now I have to be careful not to overdo it. So I'm wondering if I can just leave it as is then, so that I don't overdo it. Okay, does that work? So I'm just fixing right now, because I'm getting ready for this to be done. So I'm fixing. Actually, I might leave that as is. The main event are these mushrooms and the log. Anything else doesn't matter. So I don't want to add too many details at the back or anything like that. This is so much better. Da 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 da. No, I think I'm done. I like these brushes after all. I'm fixing. I have to let it go. I have to let go. Oh, I know why it looks so weird. Okay. Because it looked weird. These things need to come together like this. Now it looks better. Okay. Okay, so let's see what we got. Thank you and everyone who stuck with me for over 2 hours here. This is what we got. And I think I like it. I think I like it. So let's sign and do the big reveal. Where am I going to sign? I might need to sign later actually, because I'm just going to pick up the colors otherwise. And I don't have a rigger for oil paints. Okay, I'm not going to sign. I'm going to figure it out later. But the big reveal. By the way, this is what my palette looks like after all is said and done. I was able to stick with a small palette, size palette. I mean, this size is small. I think I've got paint underneath. 1 second. Okay, I need to throw some of this stuff out before I get it on my clothes. Okay. And I like this background here at the back. I like it. I think it's good the way it is. I don't need to fix anything else. Alrighty. And then and look how pretty. This makes it that much more pretty. And I'm gonna show you the whole thing. So this is it. Try not to move too fast so I don't give you vertigo. Some detail on those mushrooms. Okay. So they're very your eye tells you that they're mushrooms, right? Otherwise they're quite loose. And then this is the log here. All that beautiful detail on the log. Yes? So this is it. Thank you everyone for sticking with me. I hope you enjoyed it. And I'll see you in my next live. Tonight actually, 10 p.m. Mountain Time. Just for some relaxation type of painting. But I won't be talking. I'm just going to put on some music. Nature sounds, I think. I hope that I'll be allowed to do that. And but yes. So thank you so much, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.